I'm wondering if anybody's ever talked about Rivals on any other podcast ever. I'm just saying.
Probably not. That might give you some traction.
Good luck.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lat Mackey, and this is Sequence Break, episode 45. Boog to the Man. Boog, my friend Boog. How you doing, Boog?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and so I probably haven't even told you why I asked you out to the podcast. So
no, you just wanted me to come on.
Just kidding.
I'll take it. I'll just take it. Come on.
Well, okay, so there's this thing. So I've known Boog's probably been one of the people I've known the longest since I started streaming on Twitch, or even going down the speedrunning rabbit hole, I should say. And there's, for many of us, for a good reason, are critical of a lot of decisions Twitch makes and things like that. But there are also times that some things just happen on Twitch that are really awesome and fun and great for communities and things like that. And I wanted to kind of acknowledge at least some of that because, a lot of times we can crap on Twitch, rightfully so. Like, they make some really questionable decisions sometimes. But the hosting and rating of things, like when you get to host somebody or raid somebody and you support each other doing what you're doing, I had such a magical experience with Boog. Boog was the first person that ever rated my stream when I was started speedrunning at probably Super Mario Brothers 3 at the time. I don't remember. Maybe I was playing Bonk. I don't know. Do you remember Boog?
No, it was definitely Super Mario Brothers 3. Okay. If it was for Bonk, probably at that time I would have been like, never know what this game is, so I'm not gonna rate that guy. I want to rate somebody who got like maybe less than 5 viewers. At the time when I was still speedrunning Sonic, I was getting like 10, 20 viewers. So I was like, let's just rate some small streamer, And I like doing that sometimes just to get more people to get noticed. Not a lot of people do that nowadays. So sometimes when my community is really big at that time, but hey, let's rate somebody, give them a follow, give them support, they're probably just starting out or whatever. But I think probably at the time you probably were still just starting out, I think, right?
Yeah, there may have been one other person in the chat. Maybe, I don't even know. Maybe it was empty because there was a few months I was streaming to nobody, like everyone does when you start out, and
yeah,
it meant so much to me. I didn't realize how, even at the time, but it's like just that somebody would take a chance or would do something like that, and first of all, I'm so thankful it was you, because you're like such a nice person. I was like, it's somebody I'm glad I made friends with. But it really meant a lot. It still means a lot to me. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't think I might not be doing this had somebody not rated or hosted. So, I really appreciate that.
I feel like the more that I've done this raid that so long ago, who knows how long it's been now. I don't even remember how long it's been. Right. I know I've been subbed for a long time to you, so I still don't even know if that's even close enough or not. But yeah, I remember like it was just yesterday. I remember I didn't even know what level you were on. You were on one of the airship levels, and I raided you, and you were like, "Oh my god, my first raid!" And I was like,
I feel
like I made this guy's day because his first raid. He appreciated it. I followed him. He followed me back.
Dude, I gotta tell you, so interestingly enough too, I do that probably a couple times a month. I don't stream too much. That's the problem. I only stream like once or twice a week nowadays. But yeah. I once or twice a month, I like to go looking for somebody like you did, like where there's one viewer, there's two viewers. And admittedly, I'm not streaming to a lot of people, but it just makes their day if that's, it makes the streaming thing a lot better. And it just, I don't know, it meant a lot to me. So first off, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. The only other time I do that is when it's like, there's nobody really on that I want to host specifically.
Right.
So if I usually am speedrunning, I'll usually go in the speedrunning tag and just
absolutely
go from low to high, and then I'll be like, oh well, this guy's playing, I don't know, Mario 64. I mean, that's an awful example, but you get the idea. Is that you want to host somebody that has a little viewers, and with me usually sometimes getting 10 to 15 when I speedrun.
Yeah, and I like the idea, you support the Sonic, whatever, you support your communities first, you look there first, but every once in a while, take a risk, folks. You never know what might happen. Admittedly, it could also go really bad. That's the other thing. You never know what you're going to host sometimes, but admittedly, it's kind of fun.
And I think it was even worse when I didn't realize that like the next day or after a certain while, you just gave me mod. I'm like, why did he give me mod out of nowhere? So
I didn't have any. I didn't know what to do. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing sometimes on Twitch.
And I think you even told me I was your first mod too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So first, still there. I haven't added many more since, but I stream to so few people. It does. Thankfully, it doesn't. It's not. I don't necessarily need a lot of mods. I'm very fortunate that way, but. Okay, so let's get into it, man. First of all, a lot to go over here. First, when did you start gaming? What were some like your early games you remember playing as a kid and stuff like that? Let's take it back to early.
Oh man, I would all say this, if it wasn't for watching VHS tapes so long ago, I probably would not remember much. I can't remember how old I was, but I was a little kid. I remember it because I remember the VHS tape like it was. Like I don't remember that time because I was so little back then, but I don't know if I was 1 or if I was 2 or even younger than 1, but I remember was it an NES? I think it was NES. I don't remember, but I remember I was playing Tetris and I was just playing it, and then like every time I'd try to give the controller to my dad and he'd go, "No, you play." I go, "Okay," and then I'd play more and I'd like, keep doing it back and forth, and that was like really deep down, like really sad. I was like I don't remember that, but it was so cute of me. But yeah, that was the first time, I guess. The time I really remember was a Genesis. I don't remember exactly, like I said, I was very young, so I don't remember how or when they bought it and stuff like that. But I remember my 3 games that I remember playing was Sonic 2, which I played a lot, and that's why I ran that game. Sonic 3 just alone, so there was no Sonic. I didn't know what Sonic and Knuckles till recently, a couple years ago, maybe like now it's been 4 years now that I've known that Sonic and Knuckles was 2 games in one. So I didn't know that. And then the other game was the what's his name? The Cheetos mascot guy. It was Wild Wild Quest or something like that. I can't remember the game, but yes, you get to play as a cheetah, the cheetah guy. It was pretty hilarious. I recently just played that. I remember how hard that game was. That's why I stopped playing that game. So I don't know if I remember much of that. And then the only other thing I remember was after I beat Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 a bunch of times. I remember the only game I had on a SNES was A Link to the Past, and I have not beaten that game since then. I remember I was getting pretty far, and then I got stuck on a section, and I have yet to never come back to that game. I hope I'll come back to it pretty soon because I really want to beat that game and eventually speedrun it. So, yeah.
So if you don't mind, like, I know you're a little bit younger than me, and I'm curious, were those like the consoles that were out, or are those just the consoles you guys had in your house? Because I'm always curious how people who are a little bit younger than me end up playing some of these retro games. Because I was PlayStation. Like, what was kind of the era when you started gaming for a console wise?
Man, I can't remember. If I had to take a guess, I know that the Genesis. I remember playing the Genesis like. Still in like 2000 something.
Oh wow! Okay, so you
that was like I was like 5 at that time. So if I had to say like 2002 or 2003, I would say probably 8, maybe even 9 if possible.
Got it. Okay.
I do remember having a PlayStation 2 like later in the years, and I was very hooked onto that.
Yeah.
I played like all the good games, God of War, Jak and Daxter, all those. Then I went from the 360 to an Xbox One, and then I have a PC. So. Now I learn a lot more retro games that I never knew about, and now it's like really I've been loving the retro world as well as any new modern games that are coming now.
Well, I think that leads in perfectly then. So how did you end up then discovering speedrunning, or were you trying it out first? Like what's the entrance? How did you get into the speedrunning thing?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, my favorite game of all time, if anyone hasn't noticed by now, it's already Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's my favorite game of all time.
It's a great game.
I don't know if that was my first speed game or not, but I remember it was one of my first games that I ran. And the way I looked through it was back in, 2014, I think it was, maybe even a little before that. I was really just looking at Twitch streams all the time. And I said, hey, wait, this guy has like 800 viewers on Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Let's see what he's doing. And that's when I found Worcer when he was actually doing Sonic 2 back in the day. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And, I told the people at the time who I knew were friends, and, I don't really speak to them anymore. But they were like, oh, this guy is doing tricks and he's cheating. He's not playing the game as intended. I mean, like, you just see this on YouTube comments now. So it's like I'd never leave in my past. So, but no, I saw Worcer do it. I was like, man, this looks really interesting. I really want to try this. So, what I've done back on the Xbox when I used to stream on there because I didn't have a PC at the time, I just started playing Sonic 2, trying to get as fast as possible. And then 2017 came around, got a PC and started running Sonic 2. And then eventually starting as of today, my time sits at an 1812 IGT when before I started, I was like a 40 minute IGT time. It was really terrible, but I look back at it now and I'm like, I'm glad I'm at where I'm at with a decent time to where, 40 minutes is like not even good enough to even be part of the top 30 people.
No. I'm glad you brought up the Sonic 2 because first of all, it's definitely it might be in my top 20 of games. Like it's great. It's just like a perfectly made platformer and everything like that. But I would have never even thought of speedrunning it, which calling my speedruns of Sonic 2 a speedrun is highly questionable. But thankfully you're the one who kind of introduced me into giving it a try because I grew similar to yourself. My first person seeing it was Mike89 and he was just destroying it at the time, and I was like, how could I ever even think of doing something like that? But to your encouragement, and I think this is kind of an important takeaway for all like speedrunning in general, is just give it a try, because even if it's not that good, it's super fun to play at that level and to speedrun and stuff, and it's such a great game to do so. Was there a Sonic community around at that time? Did you find one or anything like when you first started watching or trying some of these runs yourself?
When I first started, before I even started, and I'll actually bring up this guy because he was probably the first guy that, was a Sonic guy, and we used to do races all the time. I'm not sure what he is at the time now because he doesn't stream that much, but the first guy I ever met in the Sonic community, his name was Kick-Ass Pancakes. I don't know if anyone's really knows. Yeah, you know, right? Don't know if anyone really knows him. I know if you're a big Sonic fan or at least a big Sega fan, you will know who he is. He was probably the first guy I remember. He was just like me. He had 2 viewers, 3 viewers, and he would just play Sonic ROM hacks. And can't remember what Sonic ROM hack was, like Sonic 2 Y or something like that. It was basically Sonic 2 levels, but they're made them more harder, so you have to like take different paths. And it was pretty interesting watching that. He was probably my biggest inspiration for speedrunning when I got really getting better at the times. Like my goal for any speedrun at the time back then was just trying to beat all of his times. He would be like 20 minutes faster than me. And, now I look back today and I'm like, man, I actually did beat his times. And like, I don't know if he'll ever come back to speedrunning, but, I hope he does so then I can come back and, beat him as well. Because me and him, I even got him to run Sonic 2 HD, which is just a fan-made project that is still really in early development. There's only 3 stages right now. But we did it as just like bro race,
Yeah.
So it was pretty fun that he jumped on board and wanted to beat my time because just like me, his favorite game also was Sonic 2. So like I said, it was really nice that we had the same favorite game. We raced all the time. And his community was good, a lot of Sega fanboys, that's me including, but so he's one of my biggest inspirations.
I think it's really cool, the community around Sega games and also Sonic specifically. But for being at the last few GDQs, every time a Sega runner has done something there's an army of like 50 people. I don't know if it's that many, but it seems like there's always this army going around with the Sega crew. And I think that's really awesome that the community is there for one another and to support one another. And as you started speedrunning, I mean, did you find that helped you learn the speedrun, or was it nice find can you tell me a little bit about kind of your involvement in that, or how it's helped you in your speedrunning and finding folks online that are into the same stuff as you are?
I mean, when they made the Sonic speedrunning Discord, it was very helpful. It's just like if you had any other speedrunning places, like I don't know if they have one for you for Bonk, but I'm sure they do.
We do now.
Yeah. So they had that for all the Sonic games. So, Sonic 1, 2, all the classics, all the adventure games. Any game that you wanted to speedrun, if they had a channel for it, that's where the channel you would go to. So I would always go there. I would love to do more races in the future. I haven't done so many in the last couple of years because either just the work or people do them on a weekday that I can't do it.
Right.
But I used to remember back in the day, I would always say, hey guys, who wants to do like a Saturday Sonic trilogy race or Sonic 2 race, because that's when I started getting to 1 and 3. And, I'd always get races and I'd always improve. Sometimes I would even go as far to watch, go back into tutorial videos that I've watched so long ago. And I'm like, oh, that's how I remember doing this trick. Because especially Metro 3 for Sonic 2 is probably one of the hardest tricks in the game and never, I can't believe I still learn it till this day. And yeah, it's like I said, the community for Sonic is probably one of the craziest communities that actually is willing to help people out. Because I know there's a lot of communities that don't help people out. Like I know there was one time in a different community, I don't remember which community it was, that it was someone else's. He got a world record, and then apparently whoever had the world record saw he got beaten, and he already had a time that was faster than his world record time. So he uploaded that, and then he beat him in like 2 hours later. And I'm just sitting here like, he had a YouTube video this whole time.
That's brutal.
And didn't submit it until somebody beat his world record.
Oh my God, that's brutal.
Yeah, my friend probably will never go back to that game ever again. I remember it was can't even remember the name. Curse of the Moon. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Yeah, he played that and ran it.
Oh, and or in other instances, I guess because this is, I mean, you've played games that the people that there's not big leaderboards for as well, and some games don't even have a community around them. So like, there's all these sort of things that that's one thing I think is also interesting to observe about Sonic and also Sega is that how involved they are, or how that they reach out. They're very active and involved. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. Couldn't think of my own words, but they're active and involved. And I think that's really, it's really nice to have that, because not a lot of games don't even have that, if you will, or the community is ridiculously huge. Like you guys just, it's very, I really appreciate it. It seems like it's a really good group of people that really are there to support one another. I just think is really cool.
Yeah, especially for games that I'm moderator in. Like one of the games I'm moderator in is just like a web browser game, and we don't really have a community for that. Right. So we just use the forums, I guess, at that point until we, I don't know, ever get big on the game. I don't think we're ever going to be big, but not on web browser games at least. But that's actually like a funny story. There was one time, I can't remember who played it, but I saw that game and I was like, hey, this game looks interesting, even though it's mainly just an auto-scroller, but it was interesting. So I picked it up and played it, and I found some tricks about the game to speed up the process of the games. Like you can use, so if anyone wants to know the game, it's Bullet Bill 3. Bullet Bill 3 was the game. So you play technically as a bullet bill, and depending on what you get, you have different abilities. So you have one that stops the time, slow down at how fast the game goes, but the biggest one is the warp whistle, which if you have that once it's activated, you basically can just skip the whole level. So once I learned that, I said, okay, well, let me make a any percent category and then make an any percent no warp whistle category. And then that's when I got a couple other people involved, people I never even knew or heard about, and they were just like, hey, can you make a category for this? Can you make a category for that? And I was like, wow, I'm actually growing this web browser game, Bullet Bill 3, into like an actual community. And it was nice that, not only did I have me and my friend, because that's how we started the board, we had other people doing ILs, we had people doing full game runs. As I mentioned, like I said, we're not big. We have maybe like 4 or 5 runners, if anything, but
that's like most of the games I play.
I mean, I guess if you say that, but I feel like every game you play, especially the bonks, I know bonks are like probably one of the best games on TurboGrafx. Right, I don't know if that's correct, but I'm assuming it is. But
they're one of the games on the console. But that leads to an interesting question, because I've noticed that you actually have this, we'll get back to some of the other runs and stuff, but you have a very wide variety of games that you've attempted speedruns at. And is there something that, like how do you decide what game you're going to end up running? Like, how did you end up, is this a game that just you found fun and saw some things that you could probably break in it? Or like, what's the appealing thing? How do you get into a speedrun?
Well, I will say for most of the games, it depends on, it could be a lot of things. So for one game I can say is Columns on the Genesis. We had like 7 or 8 people just running it. I don't remember how it got big or it got big in the community. And then Liz Star, she made a board for it on Columns, and then the board for Columns just grew like immensely fast. And then I said, you know what, let me try doing this. And then I had fun doing that for a while. I got sub 5 at level 10, and then I had something else at sub 6. But then it was like, I can't get any better than that, or I could, but I think the top 2 people on the leaderboards are literally grinding it right now, so I never went back to that game. The other game that I could probably mention that I don't know if it was popular back in the time, but was Ristar, or Ristar, however y'all want to call it. I call it Ristar.
I'm with you. I'm a Ristar person.
That game, I don't remember how I remember playing it, but I do remember it was interesting. It was like, it was like a new game of like a mechanic that you've never seen. You know, Ristar is a slow person, but as soon as you grab on that pole, you can go immensely fast and literally go over levels. I don't know, I think it's like 2 or 1 you can go over. But the mechanics of that game now have just been incredibly. I think the game is now at like a 27 something. It's ridiculously crazy.
When Liz, I'm glad you brought it up, because when Lizstar was on the podcast, we talked about it, and I'm almost sure you're the person who recommended it to me, but I can't quite remember.
Yes,
but it does everything, because it's so good casual, it's so good blind, it's so good as a speed. Like, it ticks all the boxes of a game you want to play on Genesis. It's just so good. The controls. Man, I don't want to. The controls feel just really good in the hands. Like when you're executing things at a high level in that game. And for me, it didn't come until the end of the game when I started to get close to beating it, because now I'm comfortable with the controls. It just plays really fun. The mechanics are just really great. With you grab on and you jump. And if you've never seen the game, do yourself a favor and go check it out, because it's really fun. Have you? I know you've speedrun it. Have you ever considered going back to it? I mean, that's, I think, probably one of the first people I saw speedrun it.
Yeah, I have a goal for next year, which is to go through all of my games, and I'm pretty sure Ristar is one of them. But I have a goal for next year that every game I'm currently last place in, I'm going to try and beat the person above me.
Oh, cool.
That's going to be very hard. I think I went back to look at all the games, and there was one game I was like, oh, hey, look, I'm last place, but then this guy's like 20 minutes higher than me. I'm like, I better learn all those glitches for that game, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I do eventually plan to go back. Hopefully, I do keep my promise for next year to at least beat all games I am currently last place.
That's a project, but that's a really cool idea. And it gives you a chance to return to those speedruns. That's a really great way to do it.
Yeah, just any game I'd be like, I know I can improve this time. And I do have a better time on Ristar that I have. I just didn't think of posting it because I wanted to beat, like I said, as I mentioned, Kick-Ass Pancakes also ran that game. Wasn't good at the game, just like me. But I wanted to at least bop him first before I do that. But I never went back to it. And that game is very, very, very hard. But once you learn how to play the game and you learn how to maneuver through everything, it is a really fun speed game. So definitely recommend it as well.
Totally agree. Let's talk Sonic Rivals a little bit. And for those of you who are watching this on the video, that's the video you see on the screen right now. And Boog is the current world record holder in it, but the record has been changed back and forth. First, let's break it down a little bit. What exactly is Sonic Rivals, and what makes it kind of different than some of the other Sonic games that came before it?
All right, well, let's just get that out of the hand. This is not a normal Sonic game. Just saying that right now. And I guess you can picture Rivals as two different games. You can picture it as, well, the mechanic of the game is the race. So you can picture it as like Mario Kart or Need for Speed or any racing game that you can technically think of. And then I usually bring the second mechanic as like Mario Party, where it's very random. You can know what you're going to get out of the items once you grab it, but as the randomness is what the opponent's going to grab, because you'll be so far ahead of the opponent. There's times where I thought I was going to win, and one of the mechanics of the game is rubber banding. So if you're so far ahead of your opponent, and you can see it on the screen, which is very funny, and I always laugh about it, that Sonic or whoever you're versing will be like on the middle of the screen, and then like it'll be like all the way over here, and I'm like, how did he get over there? But that's the case, that if you're so far ahead of your opponent, the AI has a mechanic that once so far they try to get pretty close to you as fast or as close as possible, and then they go back to the normal state of how they're playing the game. So picture like Mario Party with racing games and very bad, rubber banding to the game.
And it was originally a PSP game, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
Yes, it is only on the PSP.
So I still don't have a PSP to this day, but I was really impressed with the frame rate and the speed of the game. The game looks incredibly fast, but I noticed, I don't know if you describe it this way, but it kind of looks like it's on rails a bit, where you have a predefined path. Is that accurate, or is that just what I'm seeing?
Nope, that is correct. Okay. It is a predefined path. Like I said, depending on how you know where to go, there is like, if you take one path, this will be 5 seconds faster, or if you take this path, it'll be 10 seconds faster. So there is different paths. And by paths, I mean just either up or down. So whichever way you decide to go, that's the path that you'll be taking to either go fast or not. And that's how I determine, okay, well, if I take this path, I'm going to lose so much time. But if I take the middle path, I'm going to be saving like 10 seconds. So
There's also times
what were
where,
you saying?
as I was watching your most recent PB, which is it almost a year? Well, I haven't watched your most recent one because I didn't find. Has it been? Have you submitted it yet?
Let's just say it has not been verified yet.
Got it. Okay.
I learned through the Sonic community that if somebody submits a run and you're a moderator, you can't verify your own run, which I 100% agree with. I think that, most moderators, I feel like, shouldn't be verifying their own runs. And I will admit that for another game I'm moderator in, I was always verifying my runs, but then I realized that I should stop doing that because that just doesn't seem right to everyone else. So I just now always just submit my runs and wait to get verified. But yeah,
some games don't have that luxury.
A crazy ride.
Right. No. Okay. So what is it about then, like Rivals, that keeps you grinding at it? Because it's a game that you've put some time into now, and I find some really interesting things that happen throughout the run. Like there are times where you're jumping and I'm not quite sure why, but it seems like you're gaining speed that way. Like what is it about this game that has made you put some time into it?
So originally, I still actually have this game on an actual PSP.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't have any way of currently running it on an actual console, but yeah, it's like goes to some of my Let's Speed games that I like to run my childhood games. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my childhood games on a PSP was Sonic Rivals. I used to play it all the time. I never 100% completed that game because I guess the mechanic is when you beat levels, you get these cards that you can use to unlock, like, I guess, cosmetics for the characters, but I never really bothered with that. It was just, I played the game for fun. And I would always go back to beating the same characters, Sonic, Knuckles, Shadows, and Silver, and I'd always like, okay, this is cool, I'm having fun. And then, like I said, I think it was back in, I know that on 2017, I remember the record was a 49 something. And then now I'm looking at it back and it's like, now the world record's 40:05. Like that's 9 minutes saved in 3 years. And me and my rival, that I actually do have a rival in the game. His name is Cybersonic Stars, and we've been trading the record back and forth. So it's great to see that he's still into it, and I'm glad he's still into it. He is more interested, though, in Sonic Rivals 2, which I have tried that game. I don't like the new mechanics they have in the game. There's a lot of weird things that I didn't like about that game. So I don't know if I'll ever run it. I might at some point just for like a casual playthrough or something, but I don't think I'll ever run that game.
Is a game like this available anywhere besides the like? Do they make it available? Can you do it on PS3 or anything like that, or is this something you have to emulate to make work? Like, if you don't have
the only thing that will work, from what I've been told, because I've been looking at a lot of videos, So, because for the longest time they had emulators hidden, so you could never see the runs. And then I made it a point on one of the forums, and from what I was told from the moderators at the time, that because the emulators ran so fast, nobody wanted to run the game on an actual PSP to see if it matched up with the times that we were getting on emulators. Yeah. But eventually that was changed, and now you can see the emulator runs on there. But from what I was told, I think it's called the PlayStation TV or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's called.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where you can play PS1, PSP, PS Vita, all those games. And that's the only current way. I doubt Sega will ever make this game come out, on modern days. But if it does, that would be really cool, because I would love more people to play the game, or at least just play it on emulator once. And if you love it, I definitely recommend running it. And please, no, some people played it the first time, and I feel like the one thing that gets them, and as I mentioned, is the rubber banding, because you can go so far ahead, and then whoever you're racing at that time, will just come in and then just go right over you. So it is the rubber banding in that game is probably the worst mechanic of that game. I hate it so much, but sometimes I just got to go with it. But yeah, the only thing though is that recently, and as you said, it's not been submitted or verified yet, but I did recently get the world record again. And when I still had the record at the time, was for Silver and Shadow. And then I got the world record for Knuckles 2 years ago. There is a goal, but I don't know how far I'm going to push myself. But I'm 6 seconds away from sub 40, and I don't know if I'm going to go for it, because my run for that game was very good when I got a 40:05. And it could have been a sub 40. I mean, but I lost 30 seconds into a level, but I don't know if I'll get to that time by the time I need to save 30 seconds, because I could be like 2 minutes behind at that time, and I'm like, okay, well then I can't PB at this point.
Right.
So it's like, do I have the patience and the time to go for 6-second saves, basically, or more?
That's a really interesting point you bring up. The trade-off between, I don't know any other way to put it, but I'm just saying it's like sanity and getting the time that would be like make you feel really good. And I think that's always a speedrunner's dilemma. I know it's something I've struggled with, but I hear everyone struggle with, is like at some point it becomes like a mental health issue, just because it's just grinding and grinding, and you don't want, the game is still fun. You don't want to make it not fun. And it sounds like that's you're at a point now where you might be struggling with it.
I mean, and you also have to keep in mind that this is, like I said, this is an RNG game. So you could have one of the best levels for one of the game, and then the next level you can get frozen 3 times in a row, and that's actually how I lost one of my runs. Whereas I was very at the end of the race. I don't know how the opponent got 3 freezings, whatever they're called, ice cubes, I guess, in a row, and I lost. And I was very upset, and I lost. I was very sad that happened, and that will still always haunt my memories. That apparently, no matter what, the AIs can get, I guess, as many items as they apparently need, I guess.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that, because as a speedrunner myself, I prefer playing games that are a little bit more skill-based, because then I always know if I don't get a better time, it's because of me. But as like a viewer, man, it's fun to watch the RNG or runs with RNG elements, because anything can happen on any given run. And so, to me, RNG always feels like it gives everyone an opportunity to at least, but to run the game. But on the flip side of that, it can be, you have to put in so many thousands of, or whatever, hundreds of attempts before you get the run that you need, just because that needs to line up. It's brutal. It's brutal a trade-off.
There's always one level that I'll never, get to, because in order to save time, I have to be on the 5th stage. But the 2nd stage, I feel like, is my most terrible stage, because they'll get their special, and I can go a little bit into that in a little bit, but their special can just ruin your run immensely. So what is a special, if you're asking? So when you grab a star in the game, that's currently your special, and that's like a one-time use, like every other item that's in the game. So for Sonic's, he's the only one that I wouldn't mind reversing in on the 2nd stage, which I'd have to play as silver for that. But Sonic's special ability is just, he goes fast. We already knew that was good. But yeah, he goes fast. So that's his ability. As for Knuckles, Shadow, and Silver, they all have different abilities. So Knuckles, he slams on the ground and you get confused for a couple of seconds. Shadow's ability is Chaos Control, which slows you down for a little bit. And then Silver, which this is why I don't like running Sonic anymore that much, is Silver's ability is he can change your controls up for a couple seconds. So if you decide to go right, and let's say you're going left or looking up or looking down or spinning or whatever it might be, that's the reason I don't like it, because I also have to verse him again on stage 4 and not lose to him as well. But once I get stage 5, it will be all smooth from there. But you got to fight Silver twice, and because he changed your controls up, could just make or break your run. So there are some manips. I guess from what I was told, there is a set pattern that they go after. So in one of the stages, in stage 2, which is the 2nd level of the game, they always go for these magnetic rings. And what these are is, if you grab them, if you're in first, it drops these rings. And when they touch it, they get hurt. And that's actually another thing I should mention. The items in the game, depending if you're in first or in second, changes the ability of that item.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So the best item when you're in first you want to get is the fire shield, or that's what it is in first place. And that bit necessarily works for anything when you get it. If you get hit by their special, if they throw like ice at you or anything that could hurt you, basically is a free damage that you won't get hit and not lose any time to. But if you're in second place, it treats more as like a fireball and attacks your opponent. So it's really interesting that they made that mechanic, and that's like with all the other items. So as I mentioned, if you're in first with the magnetic rings, they drop magnetic rings and they get hit. Or if you're in second place and you use it, they just instantly get hit by electricity. So it's really interesting that depending if you're in first, second, it's not like if you ran this game with somebody or just played it, as a co-op or local game, there's no way of telling who's gonna win because the items change. As like if you're example you were playing Mario Kart, it's gonna be the exact same item that you're gonna get, and there's no difference to it.
Right.
As like I said, to this, it's just you pick whatever item, and then that item will either help you or not help you. So, because it's happened a couple times, but yeah, that's why this whole game is all based on RNG, and I'm like, do I really want to risk my time going for all the time save for 6 seconds in Sonic? Like, I really want that's one of my biggest things. If I get the sub 40, I don't think that time can be lowered anymore unless someone finds some type of shortcut or some skip that I have not been using. Like, there's no skips or glitches in the game, but there's all these shortcuts that you can take in the game. And I've done most of them. And I said, so has Cyber. So we just, like I said, we've been just helping this game lower time as much as possible.
I remembered watching some of your grind back when you were grinding a little more regularly on the game, and the amount of times you'd reset like after 35 minutes in or something like that, where there's all this green and then you'd still have to reset because of something RNG wise happened. That's heartbreaking, man. Like, why? I'm just like, oh, dude, brutal.
I feel like for the third boss, which is basically the the Bobcat or whatever that boss is called, the snowing one, but that boss, for some reason, his hitbox is terrible. Like, especially because you have to jump on his hands when he pounds down. You have to jump on his hands and jump on his box to get the hit. But because I feel like sometimes when I jump on his hands, I just fall down. And then if I don't fall down, either one, the opponent has to get the hit in, or we both don't get the hit in, and he goes back to do his pattern again. And especially for Sonic, I have all hits for all bosses, and the opponents have no hits whatsoever. So if I miss one hit, or there is a possibility that I've seen sometimes on some bosses that they all have they don't have set attacks, like set timers to go and get the hit. I found out for Silver that I missed a hit on one of the bosses, and then when I beat that level, I was still saving 6 seconds. So it's like, not all the time it can be that, but if you're getting on it's very weird. Like, their patterns are, it's crazy to me. Like, all these things I've noticed, and I just known about this a couple of days ago when I got the Silver World record again. It just blows my mind that all of these things that come into play, you don't know what's going to happen.
No.
Like, even a couple years ago, there was like a first hit manip on the first boss, but I don't know how to do the first hit on the manip on the boss. But it just randomly happens sometimes, and I'm just like, I got to figure out how to get that every time, so at least I can get a first hit manip every time.
Man, that's the times where if somebody ever wanted to task this game, just throwing it out there, that might be helpful.
I would definitely recommend it. Yeah. It's very tough when the game that you run a lot does not have a task or
brutal, right?
Any type of resources. So, like I said, literally me and my rival, Sonic, we grinded and just taught each other, hey, you can do this, save time, you can do this, save time, but there's no actual task to be like, hey, maybe we can try this in a run because we don't have a video for it. So we have to go based off of me and his,
right?
How we run the game and stuff like that. Obviously, there's ILs in place, but we know that all ILs, at least, don't ever work in an actual run unless you can get that perfectly every time.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those things where, like, I think it's nice to have Twitch because you can clip stuff and you send that back and forth, but it's not nearly as good as having, somebody, finding input by input as a task. And that's not having resources can be challenging. On the flip side of it, it can be really fun if that's your thing. If you're a glitch hunter, or if you really enjoy finding ways to break the games, it's great when you don't have some of that stuff. But it can also, for somebody who just wants to go as fast as possible, it could be a bit challenging having to go through all that stuff.
Yeah, and the same could be same for Sonic Rivals too. I mean, like I said, I don't run the game, but I am a moderator of the game, so I do watch the runs sometimes just to see, what can they do that I could possibly implement into the first game. But it looks like there's not much I can implement into the first game.
Right.
Like, the way they have it compared to how we have it now in Sonic Rivals 1 is a lot different. So there's, for example, in one levels in Sonic Rivals 2, there's a loop-de-loop skip that can save you 4 or 5 seconds. But with our loop-de-loops, they're going up and their loop-de-loops are going down, so they could just jump right down and go right passing the loop-de-loop. Whereas if you're playing a level in Sonic Rivals that mostly go up, you have to go all the way up.
Right.
And it's just like that doesn't help me because it's not my game.
I always find it fascinating, the variety of Sonic games that exist from the Master System Sonics to what we have now. More recently, Sonic Mania and some of these other games. Do you have like a favorite Sonic game out of all the ones that have existed?
Well, if I can't pick Sonic the Hedgehog 2, then I think my second game would possibly have to be. Now, if we're talking about Genesis wise, it would, or just old console wise, probably would be Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I really do like that game. As most people mention it, the first game of Sonic is just more exploring. Second game is more speed, and the third game is both of speed and exploring.
They got it all.
So if I had to pick that, it would be Sonic 2, then Sonic 3 and Knuckles. As for 3D Sonics, Adventure 1 and 2, I think are probably the best. I did say 2 was the better one, but now I'm still thinking, because I have ran Adventure 1 and I'm liking the Adventure 1 runs, and so those are very interesting to watch. And memes of Sonic Adventure 1, we already know that.
Do you have you enjoyed the you mentioned Sonic Adventure 1 you've been running? Do you enjoy? Is that a fun? It sounds like a different challenge to me. Every time I watch you play it, I'm like, this looks almost completely different, but it's still a Sonic game. I mean,
it is still, yes, it is still a Sonic game. And as I mentioned, anything that's in Adventure 1 is not the same in Adventure 2 besides Sonic's story, because his Sonic story is more of adventure based. But it's the same as Adventure 2, just a little different.
Okay.
Adventure 1, every character has their own story.
Right.
With eventually there are times where you will meet up with, because in Sonic's story, you meet all the characters that are in the game that you'll be playing at. So you will eventually play that character story, and then you'll see, oh, hey, look, this is when Sonic was at this stage, and you will cross up, but every person does have their own stage, or I guess story, except Tails. I feel like Tails' story is the same as Sonic's, because Sonic and Tails go through the same stages. There's maybe a couple stages that are different between Sonic and Tails, but other than that, we have Knuckles, Gamma, Big. And then if you beat and Amy, and then if you beat all those, you get Supersonic, which I think is probably the best one, because it has the best music. I think it's the best intro music of the game. But if I took my favorite story, I have to probably still go with Sonic, because every other story is just terrible. Like Knuckles, you have to get the emeralds, and we know how that is with the emeralds. And if you played any of the adventure games. Amy's is just more of a running away from a robot. Gamma is destroying all his robot friends, and Big is catching Froggy. So, yeah, they're not interesting except Sonic's. Literally, Big is what I say is it's a big meme category. If anybody runs Big, it's a big meme category.
Hey, what would speedrunning be without big meme categories? Okay,
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean. It blows my mind when I look at, because all the time I'm always on speedrunner.com just looking at what people run recently, and it blows my mind at all these meme games that I see. And the biggest one that I can still remember to this day is pencil sharpening simulator, but there's a category to do it in real life.
Oh my god!
There's an actual in real life category. So I went to go watch one of the runs. This guy, I'm not even joking when I say that. This guy had a drill and he had a pencil, and he put the end of the pencil in, and he went, and then he just like, oh, that's one pencil, and then that was the whole run. I was like, why would anyone run that?
Okay,
or the best one, I think, and this is something I was thinking about doing, was if the game Pringles for the Genesis.
Yes.
There's actually a
dog's already there.
Real life percent of Pringles. Of literally eating a can of Pringles and eating it as fast as possible. And then I was like, dude, what is all these meme runs are just so hilarious. And I was thinking about doing it at one point, but I got to figure out how to do it and how to implement it. But I was like, dude, that's so interesting, but it's so memey.
It can't totally really. Is. But when did you say? You said you probably started first attempting speedruns in around 2014. Was that about right?
2017. I was doing Sonic 2 attempts, but I wasn't really doing it as like, okay, if I reset, because Yeah. So
This is going to be so. It's interesting to see how the speedrunning community continues to evolve, and I think that's one of the reasons we've seen more memeing out in the last few years than perhaps we have before then. And I mean, which is great. It's people obviously love the games that they're playing. Sonic being one of them, and now I mean we've seen Sonic speedruns now for 10 years, if not longer. And it doesn't surprise me to hear things that real life percent and all this crazy memeing stuff, because what else are you supposed to do? You want to still play your game, but you can't. Real life percent's a little weird one, but I'm just saying,
I mean, like I said, there's a game that I actually did a meme run of, which was Barney's hide and seek, no controller percent. So if you don't know what that means, is the game literally plays by itself. The game can literally play the game by itself. So I do those once in a while when I'm just bored. I'm like, hey, let's just do a Barney's run. Why not, dude?
What the heck is? Well, what's the point of playing a game if you're not playing the game?
That's the whole point of it. Oh, and it is very heavy RNG. Sometimes a Barney will either say hi to everything in the game, or sometimes Barney will say hi to some things in the game.
Oh my God.
I know that there are like permanent things that he has to say hi to. I found that out recently that there's things that he has to stop for, but the game is very, like I said, just like Sonic Rivals, except you have no control over this one. It's just Barney. He's going and seriously to say hi to anyone. But it is a very hilarious meme run to watch all the time.
Definitely some things I want to watch after this podcast recording is over. This sounds awesome. Let's change gears a little bit, because this is if you're watching the video again, right now we're seeing Boog's world record run of Castlevania Bloodlines. John easy percent, I think, right?
That is John's. Yes, yeah. That is the character. That's not my main character. I did that more of a as to when I got good with Eric, which is the Spirit Boy. I can explain the difference between them and why I run Eric more than I run John. John was just more of just trying things out. I wanted to try a new character because the Spirit Boy is the best boy. We all know that. Can't disagree with that. No, but like I said, John and Eric have different things that work in the game. So for John, he's obviously like the main character. Usually the Whip Boy is always the main character.
Yeah, Castlevania.
Yeah, Castlevania lore. You just always that. So for him, he has a whip, obviously. And when you grab certain candles in the game, and I don't remember if they're crystals. They're not hearts in the game. They're called crystals. Mm-hmm. The more crystals you hit in the candles, the more your weapon upgrades, and you can get up to a level 4 weapon. And then when you get to level, I don't know if it's, I think, after you hit level 4, you have to hit 35 candles to get the super weapon.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And for John, he has a little like blue mystical ball that he can just do to kill enemies pretty fast. Whereas Eric's ability is when he uses his ability, and I'll get to this in a second, but his ability is he has like all these little like boomerangs that just fling out and kill the boss as quickly as possible. The only difference, and I don't know why this happens, but when you use John's ability, the game does not lag. But when you start using Eric's ability, the game lags like crazy. I don't know why. I think it's just because there's too much things on the screen, whereas John is just adding an extra ball to the screen, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But the main difference that I like about Eric than running John is Eric has a spear jump. So what that is you're pressing the down button on the D-pad or whatever you're using for the game, and then you press the jump button, which would be B, which is what I use. And that makes him get a super jump, and that can let him skip things in the game, whereas John doesn't have that ability, where he would have to go the normal way, going up the stairs, going through using mechanics to get up to places like that. Whereas as with Eric, it just spear jump and you get to the levels faster. And there's 2 levels in the game where Eric has his own path and John has his own path. You cannot use their paths because with John, he doesn't have that super jump, so he can't take that path. And for Eric, he can't take John's path because with John, you have to use his whip to get to the other side of the level. So they have to take their intended paths. But the run of that game is so much fun. I never thought in my entire life I would ever run a Castlevania game. Like, let's just put that out of the way right now. I remember 100% playing the game as a game request. That's how it all started, and that's how I am finding more games regularly to speedrun, is through game requests that I do usually once a week that I haven't done in a while, but try to get back to those pretty soon. But I played that game and I loved it. And I was like, I want to run this game. Like, literally want to run this game. And that's how we actually created the Japanese board of the game, because there was an English board of the game, but at the time there was a Japanese board also that was tied to the English one. But there was only one run of normal for for Eric, and there was only for easy or an expert. So me and a guy that I used to be friends with, same thing. We would play the game and try to lower it as fast as possible. And then he got too good, and I stopped running that game. But I still love to run the game and still show it off in marathons. I think the game is really incredible. I remember you playing it. I watched you play it. I thought it was really fun watching you play it. So
that was all from your recommendation. Ignorantly, I was dumb. I didn't realize that there was a Genesis Castlevania game, and probably because I didn't have a Genesis growing up. So, and if my friend who had Genesis didn't have the game, I probably didn't know it existed. So, anyway, just me being dumb. But then, more recently, in the past year or so, I've been playing through a bunch of Castlevania games, and this one has its own. Like, the Eric thing is so interesting in this game because there's nothing like it in any other Castlevania game I've played. And admittedly, I haven't gotten to the Super Nintendo ones yet, and I haven't got to that era of Castlevania, but it's just so different, yet it's still a Castlevania game, even though it's so different. And it's really fun to play through, first of all, but then secondly, it creates this interesting, an interesting caveat or dynamic to the game that I hadn't played before. And so that's one of the things that I'm so thankful that you recommended it, because it's so good. It's just as good as any other Castlevania game I've played. And it's got all the elements you like, the platforming, the challenge, the whole thing to it. Do you want to stick with it and play it some more, or keep grinding a little bit?
Yes, I do want to go back to normal. Hopefully, go to US easy.
Yeah.
And I should probably explain this a little more for people who don't know how the game works. Yeah. So English and Japanese, their games are not the same difficulty wise. So when you're playing easy US, it's like you're technically playing the game on normal. Technically, when you play Japanese easy, there are certain things that don't show up in the US version, but the only difference between easy in Japanese and easy in US is you do fight more mid-boss on Japanese, but on the US, the bosses do take a lot more hits on just bosses normally. So that's why I've been running Japanese. I was gonna run English, and then the guy that I was playing the game with was like, trust me, play on Japanese, easy, you'll love it. Turns out I did love it, and now that's why I want to go back to normal eventually and learn normal, because I know normal has more things that the Japanese normal has more things than the Japanese easy version has. So no matter what difficulty you play on, you're going to expect some new things happening than whether you just played it on easy all the time. Because I've seen normal and expert, and I see how crazy the runs are on there. So if you decide to play US, you're more of a pro than I am, because I don't think I'll ever touch US version. But if you ever run the Japanese version, let me know, because I would definitely love to help you guys out.
It's also just like any other Castlevania. It's got a great soundtrack. It's got it kind of blends a little bit of the 8 and 16-bit. It's got if you're watching the video right now, you'll see it's got some of that faux 3D-ish type stuff that Genesis was trying to do at the time, and I think it's all of that really works well to create a game. And I didn't. Maybe because I was playing it casually, I didn't experience a heck of a lot of lag, but I know depending on what kind of strat you're using, that can easily happen and stuff like that. So I totally get that.
Especially the first level is my favorite music of all time. I could listen to that song all day.
That's so good. Resetting was not an issue in that game for sure.
I feel like depending on the games you run, and maybe it's just me, I feel like there's certain levels that I don't mind listening to the first level over and over and over again because of the music. I don't run Mega Man 9, but I watch Mega Man 9 runs, and they always start off with Concrete Man, and Concrete Man's song is just so good. It's like, maybe for them it's probably annoying because they're really good at the game, but for me, I'm just like, dun, dun, dun. It's just, I don't mind those types of games, because I go like the first levels will be the best levels for me.
You know, Boog, it's funny you say that because you might be the first person who's mentioned that, but I talk about this all the time when I'm actually streaming a speedrun. That like if the first level has a good soundtrack to it or a good song to it, it makes resetting way less painful and dreadful than another game. It's like so huge. I didn't even think it's so good point.
That's the way I look at it. I look at it as like, yeah, I may have like a good time or I might have world record time. I'm trying to lower it, but I feel like I'll get mad, but then as soon as I hear the music, I'm just like back to the good mood I am. Just like, hey, I love this song.
Well, I totally agree. There's one other game I wanted to chat up really quick, and I noticed, and I didn't get a chance to watch the full run, but you've run Ducktales the Remaster. I think was it PC version?
Yes, the PC version.
That's such a good game. And how did you end up running that game? Because the original obviously is awesome, but the remaster, I had just as much fun with the remaster as I did the original game. And I'm curious how you ended up running that game.
So yeah, that's kind of a weird story. I remember back, and I don't remember when this happened, but the game was going to get removed on Steam and on shelves when that happened. And the game was on sale for like $3. So I was like, I can't pass up this game, and because maybe I might like it. I'm glad I got it and I liked it. I mean, it's kind of terrible now that the game's back on the shelves again now, but it was $3. I was like, that's not bad. I'll play it. So I got it, played through it casually, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try running this. And I'm pretty sure everyone will agree with me. Moon has the best soundtrack in the game. And that's like my second level. I think I go through. I just took whatever the world record took as a route and just copied that because I didn't know what levels were faster. Some people do take, other levels first and take some levels later. So I was like, I'm just going to take whatever the world record guy takes and just go.
Did you spend a lot of time grinding it, or I didn't see how many attempts you had made?
I don't think I did a lot. I remember I know I had a 45 flat. But I do remember playing that game and just grinding. Like, it took me a while to figure out how to get all these things faster, but there is one thing I don't like about this game, and that is if you play the higher difficulties, you like lose your lives completely. But there's a skip in some levels where you need to go back to the start of the level. And when you go back to start a level, it's like that's where you need to be. And instead of going through the top of the ship, I think it was the moon level, you have to get 3 parts. Then you have to come all the way back to the beginning of the level to get the part to, I forgot the guy's name. But then once you do that, then you go back to the beginning of the level, go through all the way straight right. And it's just like, that takes like so much time. But the guy I saw he just killed himself. And then he was back to the start of the mid level. And I was like, that saves time. But I don't think I'm that good yet to play on harder difficulties. But I definitely do want to get back into that game. I do miss that game. I did notice that a couple people that has the game are starting to run it. Obviously, they're not running my category. They're running glitch. I'm running glitchless. I might want to run glitch at some point. There is, I believe, a couple of skips that you can do that do save a lot of time in the game. Whereas glitchless, you just play the game normally.
Right. No, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Get to that. I was just gonna say that, especially with Sonic 1, I will not run that game glitch. So there's just some games I won't run glitched.
I think I'm glad that's interesting you say that too, because I feel the same way about certain games, that there are games that I will never speedrun because I enjoy them too much as a casual run or as a casual playthrough. And I think it similar goes for the glitch parts, where you just really, or the glitches are just kind of insane, where there might be an insane amount of luck that goes with them. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's the great thing about gaming, is that we can enjoy the games any way we want. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, the reason I don't do Sonic 1, and I don't know if anyone knows, but most of those glitches in Sonic 1 are, like, frame perfect.
Yeah, they're... And
so, like, it even weirds me that I know frame perfect tricks in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which blows my mind, because I never thought I was ever going to do that. And like I said, I don't run Sonic 3 Knuckles now. I run Sonic 3 Air, which is just a widescreen port of the game, and it has all these new features into the game. But it blows my mind that back before Sonic 3 Air was like my running for Sonic 3, I used to learn bird skip, which is a frame perfect trick. And if you were a frame off or a frame ahead, you would have to do something. But if you got it just perfectly, all you had to do was hold right and you get to the boss. And then there's a glitch in the game where you would go into Knuckles' path as Sonic or Tails. So when you kill one, the game ends or the act ends. So what you need to do for the second boss is you have to wait till the timer ends. And then once it says you're on Act 2 of Launch Base, you kill the next boss, and then you just skip that entire level completely because it thinks that you killed the boss. And it's registering, oh, he killed the boss for Launch Base 2, so now he can just skip and go right to Mushroom Hill 1.
Right.
So.
And I, it's that guy Jet mentions that glitchless is a better category for S1 anyway. That's, and as a viewer, everyone, that's a very fair point. But on the flip side of that, I think it's just a different skill set. Like, there are many people who task games don't necessarily attempt them RTA, and the people who execute glitches that are frame perfect tricks, it's a different skill set than somebody who wants to play the game without the glitches. And I think that's just, there's nothing's right or wrong. It's interesting that those are, in my opinion, just different skill sets. And your preference of the way to play through the game is to not have to worry about 10 frame perfect inputs to get a run going or whatever, something kind of insane.
And I'm also very happy with the Sonic community because they just recently are now allowing Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 runs to be glitchless, because before that there was no board for that because they're saying, oh well, we can't determine what's a glitch in Sonic 2 and what's a glitch in Sonic 3.
Fair
and that's
point.
the biggest that's been like the biggest problem in the community for so long. And then they finally decided, hey, let's make a category extension for all the classic Sonic games. And there was a glitchless category for all the Sonic games that was on there. And now they're implementing them as of like last month. They're now implementing all the category extensions to be put on the main board. So there now will be a glitchless board for Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, which I think is awesome.
No, that's a good point. And like, I know that comes up in a lot of other communities. What does categorize something as a glitch? And we have no major glitch. We have all these other we have differentiations of a glitch itself.
Yeah, and I think the ones I see no major glitches are the most is The Legend of Zelda, because I feel like those games can get broken a lot.
Totally.
Like they have that for Link to the Past. They have that for Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time. It's like, especially Ocarina is just like, you never would expect a sub 10 time now in that game. I didn't even couldn't imagine a sub 20 time in that game. Now the sub 10 is like what now counts as a glitch? It's harder now to discover what counts as a glitch. It would just not count as a glitch.
Well, I'm glad that that's being mentioned more often. If you watch any of Summoning Salt videos, quite often after a few months they're going to be a little bit outdated, when you're watching a world record progression, and it's always because of something being discovered. And I think that's going to keep happening in speedrunning. In my opinion, could be happening forever. Is that this will be a good time, or maybe the best time, until something new is discovered. And something new, quite often, for whatever reason, games are made in a way that there are going to be some new way to break them. And I think that's another reason to have, it gives you a good reasoning for having a glitchless and, the glitched out categories, because there's always going to be something new. That's one thing. If there's one thing we've learned about all of these games, is that there's always going to be something new.
That's the one thing I always will remember, is that this game could be like, for example, let's talk about the best game that's on speedrun.com right now, or the most game that's been run a lot is Super Mario 64. And I ran that before. I run 16 star, but I'm not that good. But besides that, I'm saying that the world record run for 120 stars, as soon as something new gets discovered, and like it could take years upon years to find something new. And like I said, I really thought that the time for Ocarina of Time was going to be that 16-minute time, and then here we are now, and now the world record's like sub 10. It's like insane. You never know when you're going to find something, and everyone's like, oh man, my run's never going to be beaten, or this is not going to happen. And then eventually this big glitch comes out that can save you 7 more minutes.
I know, it's crazy.
So it always blows my mind when something new gets developed. I always don't say, well, I have a record run, no one's going to beat that, because eventually someone's going to find something that breaks the game. Like I haven't, especially with Sonic 3 Angel Island Revisited, I stopped running the game since the tournament ended. It was back in September, at the end of September, and they're still finding ways to break the game. Like you can still skip half the levels in some levels that you couldn't skip before you even knew about them. So it just blew my mind that anyone who ever gets a world record, don't ever think that your time is going to be unbeatable. Unless you're playing Super Mario Bros. 1, then yeah, your time might not be unbeatable because of frames. But if you're playing like Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time, or just basically any of the big games, at least, your time will be beaten. Trust me when I say that. It's happened to me a bunch of times. I know the feeling.
And that's part of the thing of speedrunning. Phantom Gaming, remember when the SA2 video was outdated 2 hours after being posted? Absolutely. Legs, just recently, when the Contra video got posted, Legs, was it a couple weeks later? Legs had a new world record. Like these, it's gonna. That's the one thing you can almost expect in speedrunning, is that it's just gonna happen. And that's the fun part about it, to be honest with you. That gives you a reason to go back to the game. Maybe there's something new you can try out now that you hadn't been able to try before. And that's part of speedrunning. You just gotta get used to it.
As long as the glitches are easy for me. I remember, especially when Sonic 3, when I first started, I did not want to go for any of the hard glitches. And there's only like 4 or 5 glitches that are easy to perform on the game, but then you have all the other tricks that you have, like, I don't know if it's like memory manipulation. I know there is that for Sonic 2 for Wing Fortress, but for Sonic 3, I don't know too much. But I know that Sonic 3 has a lot more harder glitches, and the same with Sonic 1. And I feel like that's why I say if anybody's interested in running one of those 3 Sonic games, I'd say pick up Sonic 2 because it has the least amount of glitches, and you can easily get a good time. Like that's why Lap Mackey's done one. So.
Yes, not that my time's any good, but I think that's one of the reasons though we keep seeing Sonic 3 show up at marathons, because literally it seems like once a year there's something new that we're walking upside down or something in Sonic 3 because something new. The community just keeps breaking the game. It seems like every year there's something new in it.
Well, and that's funny you say that, because the last 3 GDQs, the first GDQ was to ever bring back Sonic 3 and Knuckles, besides like 89 when he came back like 8 years later, was Joey Baby and Zaxxon, and they demolished that game.
Right.
And then the last GDQ was Sound Defense doing Sonic 3 Knuckles All Emerald, which I always used to watch it before his runs in SGDQ SGDQ, and I was like, man, it's crazy how you do special stages and you can beat them so much faster. I would have never said that. Literally, there's a set pattern that you need to hit for the blue spheres to just go and just beat those as fast as possible. And now we're going to Sonic 3 again, but we're doing Sonic 3 Angel Island Revisited, and that game's been broken, as I said, so many times. Like the world record before we even had the marathon was like a 38 or 37. Now the time's like a 30 something. Like it's almost close to that. It's going to be almost as close as Sonic 3 and Knuckles time, but it will never reach that because Sonic 3 and Knuckles has all these old glitches that, you know, can never get patched, whereas the team who works on Sonic 3 Angel Island Revisited, they always do patch them. There was a time where we used to do Sandalopolis 1 twice. It's kind of weird how that sounds. There was a glitch where you can access the menu screen while you're moving on to the next stage, and you can restart the act, and you'll be playing Sando 1, but the game thinks that because you've already beat the boss and you're transitioning to the screen, that you're actually playing Sando 2. So you would technically fight the boss twice. You can do the same thing as well in Lowry, which is really, really interesting. But they have patched out the Stando 1 glitch, so you have to do Stando now. But people, I think, are starting to run the newer version now because they found more stuff that you can do in the newer version than in the last version. So, like I said, I haven't touched the game since September. I don't remember what's been new, besides like a skip in Hydro City that you can do now. But it's just crazy to me that every day something new can happen in a speedrun.
It's so true. And man, you even brought up another point that would take us down another rabbit hole. But you know, when newer games with patches and what version do you play on and everything, it's interesting that's, you know, you could even do that. Sonic 2 is actually a great example. You play on the what's the cart that you play, you don't play if I don't Sonic Classics. Yeah, there we go. Classics collection. Yeah. Even that's a different version because you can do one of the what's the thing in Wing Fortress?
It's what do you call it? It is called Slope Glitch.
There we go. Slope Glitch. There, yeah. So it's
and that also does fix some things in the game as well. That also fixes Wing Fortress, where if you spin dash too fast, that you can fall off the plane. You can't do that in the classic collection. So I like doing that. I just like six tapping as fast as possible because you can't fall off the thing. So
I had no idea that was a thing.
Very hilarious.
I ended up picking, like, you can get the classics version for like $10. Like it's not an expensive game.
Yeah, it is. It's very cheap. You can get it for like I think $5.
Yeah.
Probably said, or maybe even 10. I don't know.
Well, with shipping, it was like it was less than $10. That's what I know.
Yeah. So there you go. It's like you can literally have fun with that. So if you ever want to, it's kind of weird also because with the Sonic tournament we had in the past, and there's another Sonic 2 tournament coming up. I'm not going to do that one, sadly, just because not interested in running Sonic 2 right now. But it was nice to see that when people were running Sonic 2 and they got to Wing Fortress, some people were running the actual version, and some people were running the classic card collection like I was running. So it's cool to see that. I guess it depends on how you want to play the level.
Yeah.
If you think it's better to go through the platforms as fast as possible, or if you think getting slow glitches faster, then by all means run that version. That version is only there for that glitch specifically. Not by most people, or some people I should say, like Mike89 for example. He doesn't like running that because he thinks that running the actual cartridges is the right thing to do.
Right.
So he usually runs that version. But like me and some other people that I recently I've gotten so many people into this game that I don't know how anyone can get into this game anymore.
Keep them coming. The leaderboard has grown quite a bit over the past couple of years. In all fairness,
I've gotten you and like 3 or 4 other people to the game, and they're loving it. And I'm like, man, it's like I don't know how I'm doing. I'm just helping them getting better at the game. I was just watching one of my friends before we started this today, and he was going for sub 20. I'm like, dude, I remember when this guy had like a 40-minute time, and now he's at a 21-minute time. I'm like, I feel like I'm doing work for the community. Like because I love that game. I want to get as many people as possible to run that game.
It feels so for folks. If you consider a speedrun, if you've never done one before, I'd like to highly recommend Sonic 2 because first of all, some of the glitches are some of them are real easy to pull off. Like you can learn them pretty quickly, but it feels like you're doing a speedrun. Like, and I know that sounds very strange, but it's fun to play the game at very fast and a high level, and it's fun to learn the quick kills on the bosses. It's fun to learn the glitches. Like it's a really enjoyable way to learn a speedrun. And truthfully, I kind of wish I would have learned it first before anything else, because of how it incorporates everything. Like it teaches you how to learn how to break games and things like that, because you have to learn some of the glitches to do it. So you're going to start looking for those things in other games you play. I promise you, some of the things you do in Sonic 2, you'll start looking for in other games. Corners and walls and things like that. I don't know if you've had that experience at all, Boog, but it's just,
I don't
it's great.
think I ever had, but I'm sure I've watched people that there's times where people aren't even running the game; they're just looking for things to break. And that's like one of the good things I love about some people is that I can't do that because I won't know where to even start to begin with. But one of the Sonic people, I don't know if anyone's heard of him, Darkspine Sonic. He is like the guy that breaks every Sonic game that I feel like is known to man. He's done Sonic 6. He's done Sonic Mania.
Oh,
he's possibly done Sonic Heroes. Like any possibly Sonic game, I'm pretty sure Darkspine Sonic has done at least one.
That's awesome.
So I feel like there's all glitch hunters where it's me just like, well, I find something. But if I break something, I'm sure I'll definitely let people know about it.
Yeah, totally.
One time I was playing Spark Electric Jester, which is an amazing game. If anyone's not played it, definitely play that game. It's a really good game. It's like a Sonic clone, but not really. But I was going so fast in a game that I eventually did a zip. And then when I told my friend, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's been discovered so long ago." I'm like, "Oh, I thought I was helping people out in the speedrunning community, but I guess I wasn't."
You mentioned this earlier, but you at some point you do plan to return to some games where you have like the last place time or whatever. Any other games recently or something that you want a speedrun that you've always wanted to attempt that you haven't gotten around to?
Yeah, there's a couple games. The main game that I want to get back to eventually at some point is Sonic Generations. I do like that game. Game is very lengthy. My time is about like a 90-minute time.
Oh,
but like the world record like sub hour, but that's just because people are really good at the game. But besides that, I want to do a run of Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, and if I do, I might just do Master Sword percent first, and then if I ever feel like playing the game fully, I'll do that. I recently got my capture card, and because I decided to dust off my Wii U, don't know why I decided to do that, but I did that anyways.
Great console.
Yeah, I decided to dust off my Wii U, and then I recently just found my Wii controller today.
Hey, there we go.
I should say. I wanted to go to my local game shop and get some Wii games and hopefully run some of those. I wanted to try New Super Mario Brothers Wii. That's another game that I'm thinking of running. That was also one of my childhood games. So they didn't have many Wii games. I had 2 games, and it was Wii Sports and New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and those are like the 2 games that people run frequently. Yeah. So it's just like I'd never experienced any games outside of that. Right. There's a small 10% chance that I kind of want to run Super Mario Galaxy. Don't know if I'll ever get into it. I know that game's very lengthy as well, so I don't know if I'll have time to do it. If I'll run the required count, which I think is 120, I think, or something like that. Besides that, I want to run more console games. I know that on my Xbox, back then on my Xbox, I used to play everything on the Xbox. I think on the Xbox because I had so many deals for. So I have a lot of games on there. So maybe there's some games I'm thinking of running. As one that I've been wanting to run is another meme game, which is called Doritos Crash Course, which is just an obstacle course, but it's the game is by Doritos. Okay, so I thought that was pretty interesting in running that. I did mention to you before I wanted to at least do the first level of Bonk's Revenge.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to get to that eventually. I keep delaying it. I'll do it the next time I decide to do it, and then I'll do it next time. Then there's another game that I recently got on the Switch called One Strike. It's like a fighting game. Cool. But the game, that's literally what the game means. Once you hit them once, they're dead. It's a really interesting game.
Oh yeah.
There is a character that's broken, so I'll probably will be playing as the broken character. But what are you gonna expect? Other than that, there's not much that I have on my mind. I was thinking about some games that I'm thinking about might want to try and run. There was a game recently came out called Ghost Runner or Blade Runner. I can't remember if that's the game, but that game is really interesting to watch. And I'm thinking if I like the game enough to run it, I know that for me specifically, I'm not a big fan of running a bunch of modern games because most times they run on the keyboard. So I'm always going to be pressing on the keyboard. I'm like, wait, I got to play on controller, but I can't play on controller because it's better on keyboard. So, and it's going to be really tough for me to try to run games on keyboard. That's another thing. I wanted to try running Portal 1, the Portal.
It's a cool speed run, actually.
I can actually play that game fine on a keyboard, so that wouldn't really bother me as much. As if I would do inbounds or out of bounds, I probably would start with inbounds first, and then if I decide to go crazier, then I'll go for out of bounds. But those are pretty much all the games I can think of as of right now. There's not really anything that really sparks my interest as of anything in the future that's coming out or not. So
I'm glad you're going to give the Wii, you've dusted off the Wii. There's some interesting things I love about the Wii. One, that first of all, if you want to buy the games, they're not crazy expensive because Wii was kind of popular. But on the flip side of that, if you want to, hack your Wii and go that route, it's not that tough. The Wii offers just a lot of possibilities for people if that's your thing.
Yeah, and I feel like for the Wii specifically, maybe it's just me, but I feel like that's the best console I feel like I still of all time.
It really is.
Which I think the second one would be the N64, but I feel like the Wii was, you could say differently. Maybe the TurboGrafx was better. Okay. I don't know. No, not at all. What I was gonna say was I feel like with the Wii and N64, they had their good niche of video games, especially the Wii. I feel like the Wii, who would have ever thought, playing Wii games with the motion control and, moving around, I would have never thought of that. Never. And so that's what I'm saying, the Wii, to me, was a good console. And then you had to bring in an extra letter to the console and make it the worst console in the series. But I just feel like I want to find games that are on the Wii that are going to be interesting. Because I feel like there are some games that are just so good on the Wii that are either one, only on the Wii, or two, potentially going to be ported to another system. There is a game that I'm thinking about running, but I have to play it first, which is called No More Heroes. They're coming out with the third game, and they made 1 and 2 remastered on the Switch. So that might be something I might be interested in playing, but I would rather, I would probably go buy it on the Switch. Anything that's only on the Wii or on a console that I don't have a console for, most likely I'm going to pick it up on the Wii. That actually reminds me of another game that I was thinking of picking up because he wanted me to play it. I don't know if I'll even buy it, but One of my friends that I know, I think you might know him. Was doing a run of Minute to Win It, and he wanted me to run that. I was like, well, I have a Wii, I have to go buy it, but I don't know if I'm gonna actually run it.
Yeah.
And he was like, just run it. He's like, it's a meme game. He's like, that's why I'm the moderator of that game. And I'm just like, okay, sure, I'll think about it.
I think that's like a testament to Wii that I tend to agree. I don't think TurboGrafx-16, by the way, is not it's not the best console it is. I keep thinking back to what the Wii offers, and like because of you can play so many different games on it at really good resolution modes and stuff too. If like you're into like the image quality and stuff. Like I just played Wii Sports like just a month ago, and it still plays like it's so much fun to hit with the motion controls.
I can agree with that. I remember playing Wii Sports all the time. And just
it always holds up.
It's like when I first heard of that, I'm always thinking, well, nowadays sports games to me aren't really attracting to me. But when you hear Wii Sports, I would have thought the same thing. Right. But then that turns to be one of like the best Wii games to run. So it's like it blows, especially Wii Golf. That blows my mind.
So good. It's so good. So I noticed I don't know if you've always done this, but in the past year or so, I've noticed you've varietied it up on your stream. You started doing game requests and you play a bunch of different games, which is I appreciate seeing because I'm always looking for a new game to play. I rarely have time to play them, but I will find, I'm trying to experience as many games as I possibly can. Is that something you want to continue doing? Are you enjoying that aspect of it? What's it like discovering games like that?
I do like doing that. I know that for some people, they don't like how I'm doing it only for an hour. But as I mentioned, I said, if I tried playing all the games that are on my list, I have a document of every game I played. And there's about 200 games on that list that I played for an hour. So imagine if I was doing those 200 games, all full playthrough, that would take me to the end of my life. So yes, no, I will not. I would always stick to playing the game for that hour. If at some point I wanted to learn that game or actually continue playing, there's times I've done that. There's games that I've been on that list like, hey, I actually like playing this game for an hour. I actually want to continue that game. I more likely continue to play that game on another day that I don't usually do a request. And that's just for casual games that I play. Recently, I'm just going through my backlog of anything I have on Steam because for a lot of PC players, you will know that you will not play every game on your Steam list. So I know that's a true fact with me. I know it's a true fact with probably you and with everyone else. So I've been trying to just play games. I don't care how bad or good they are. I just want to play them. If I think they're interesting, I'll possibly look up on speedrunner.com. And that goes with not just Steam, but that goes with whether you have Twitch Prime for Twitch games, Origin, Epic Games, any browser that has games is something I kind of want to just backlog and beat them. Because I feel like if that's the case, I'm just going to have a bunch of like 1,000+ games that are, because most of them are free, 1,000+ games that are just going to be on, just staying in there, and I'm never going to play them. So
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I just too many games. And that's actually been my problem when I've played a new game, I end up wanting to beat it. And so then everything else gets, pushed back down and you never get through it. Oh.
Yeah. And that used to stop me because I used to always just speedrun. And I'm like, that's one of my biggest things. Like if I don't speedrun, I know I'm not going to a lot of people, but then I realize like it's a game that I want to enjoy. So I feel like I should play it because I would have fun playing this game that I had for so long, but then, I never get to it because I'm always speedrunning. But now that I'm glad I'm able to sit down, not worry about speedrunning anymore, as of right now at least, and just play whatever I want to play.
It's the way I break up my speedrunning. I think it's a great way. I mean, if you're looking for, if you're getting stuck in the grind, or if it's becoming a little bit too grindy for you, I really think picking up a blind or a casual game is just a really good way to break that up. Like it's been great. I took a week off to do Light Crusader, playing it on Genesis, loving the game, and you're taking your time, exploring it. I think it's a really good way to break up the grind, to say the least.
Yeah, and I always do recommend if anyone ever has an EverDrive or is just looking for a game to find at least, like, I know there's a feature where you can play like a random game. Like, do that. Like, look for, see if you can play a random Genesis game. If you like it, try to play it and go through it. If you don't like, play a different game. That's what I like about EverDrives is they'll make a random game for you. And if you like that game, that could either potentially, one, be a game you finish or potentially a second time could be your next speed game. Like there's so many games on older consoles that you could find your next speed game. And like, that's how I done it with Game Request. I did it with Castlevania Bloodlines. I never thought I would ever play a Castlevania, but like I said, here I am having a good time on that game, having, decent, strategies of that game. And, I was loving it. If I had to pick another Castlevania game, I would probably do Rondo of Blood, to be honest.
Yes! Okay, sorry.
I'm actually thinking about that. I actually have been thinking about that, but I want to buy the collection for that instead of trying to just emulate it. So they say you can play the collection and it'll be fine. So that's something I'm also thinking of doing as well.
There's actually even a separate category. Sorry, I'm a big fan of the Rondo. So yeah, there's many different ways to get into it. You don't have to buy the $150, $200 CD to play the dang game.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I know that run that game, and obviously they run Maria. I'm gonna have to find out why everyone runs Maria. I'll have to find that out eventually. But yes, I have seen people play that game, and it looks very interesting. And I definitely want to give it a try, but I had a hard time trying to emulate it, so I'm just like, I'd rather just buy the collection and play it from there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I try to own at least one copy of the game that I'm trying to speedrun, and it's not always easy, especially with that one. That's been a challenge. So I ended up buying the collection on PS3 or 4, whatever it was. And Maria is because Richter is slow. Yeah, see, Maria completely breaks the game. It's a whole different discussion, but Maria literally breaks the game.
that explains why I play Eric, because John's just so slow.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I mean, with John, like I said, with John, he can just kill bosses faster when Eric can't do that. So that's one advantage of that. But when you can take shortcuts with Eric and his spear jump, that I feel like that's just makes up for the bosses. So
it's a fun way to play the game. It makes it totally different. So all that being said, I thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you run other games in that too, but we've covered so much, and it's really interesting to kind of hear your approach and how you enjoy speedrunning and how you work your way through it, and all these great games that you. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, think about trying some of these games. There's some games there that you may have never heard of. Bloodlines, Rivals, some really fun kind of like hidden gem type games too that you may want to consider running for yourself, or just casual playing through them.
You may not love Rivals, but that's fine.
It may not be for everybody. Boog, where can people find you on the internet? Where are you out there?
I am on twitch.tv/Boog2TheMan. You can find me literally anywhere. I'm hopefully starting my YouTube channel pretty soon to get that rolling. But everything else, Twitter, Instagram, or anything else I have, it's all the same handle, Boog2TheMan. So follow me on there. Right now, currently, I'm not really doing much. I am trying to play more casual games, play multiplayer. I've been playing Smash a lot. So if you're interested in watching Smash or wanting to play Smash, by all means, come and watch. Hopefully, once in a while, I'll do a speed run. Because like I said, I'm trying to get it back into it, but not Sonic. So you won't be seeing a lot of Sonic runs, most likely. But hopefully, during next year, I'll be coming back to Sonic and enjoying it again. But until then, it's just casual stuff. And here and there, a sprinkle of a speedrun somewhere.
I didn't even think about that. And if you don't want to answer this question, it's totally fine. But how did you come up with your screen name? I didn't even think about asking that. Oh, okay. If you don't want to say it, it's totally fine. If you don't want to say it, it's totally fine.
It's not fine. I can explain it. So I asked my sister this all the time because my sister's the one who came up with this. Well, I guess my sister's boyfriend came up with this, but my sister used to always call me Boog. I don't know why. I've asked her so many times. She doesn't know why. But she used to always call me Boog. So one day, my sister's boyfriend, he's also a gamer like me, but he's more of like the esports thing. So that's, it's a different thing. But
yeah, competitive gaming.
They were going to go buy me a shirt one time that said Boog2TheMan. And at the time, I didn't really have a handle. I was just thinking of just kept changing my name. And they were going to put a shirt on the back, or a sweater game on the back, Boog2TheMan. So at the time, when they were there, I wasn't there. So one time they came over and they said, "Oh yeah, we were gonna get you a sweater that was called Boog2TheMan," and I was like, I actually like that. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make that my handle for everything, Boog2TheMan. And so I've just stuck with that now, and it's just, it's weird because I'm like, I don't know why my sister ever called me Boog, but I just stuck with it, and now now everyone just knows me as Boog2TheMan now, I guess.
It's stuck. It works. It's great.
it worked. Yeah, it definitely works. So I was like, this is awesome. I'm glad I'm staying to Boog2TheMan. I don't think I'm ever going to change my name. So if at any point you're trying to find me, just look up Boog2TheMan. That's all you're going to say.
I can tell you.
All I'll say is If you ever come to my channel, be warned, my channel is a big meme. My whole stream's a big meme. Just saying, just putting that out there if anyone likes memes.
And also, there is nobody else on Twitch that I'm aware of that has anything close to his screen name, so it's pretty pretty easy to find. So
yeah, no one's gonna be close to that. I don't think.
Not at all. That being said, dude, thank you so much all those years ago for raiding, hosting, and getting me into all this kind of the speedrunning stuff, because I'm not sure what would have happened had that not happened. So I really am thankful. I think
you would have been fine.
You never know, dude. You never know. That's all.
I mean, I feel like with all the things you do with JDQ and Retro Gaming Live and all those other places, I feel like you probably still would have done just fine.
You might be right, but I don't know.
But as I mentioned, yeah, I feel like I did mention a lot to other people. So I feel like Grimmy, for example, like he was one. Yeah, he's one that for sure. And then obviously the other people in the chat, Jet and Phantom Gaming, I know them well, so I don't know if they'll ever give you a follow, but go follow Mackie, he's a cool guy.
No, it's about you, man. It's no joke. This is what's I kid you not. It's the reason you'll have a lifetime sub for me, because it's like I am forever thankful for it, and it taught me what to do if I was ever in that situation, and I appreciate that, and I think that's so important to keeping the community alive. And for all, I'm gonna say it again, because we're gonna be critical of Twitch. For all the faults with Twitch, this is one thing that's still pretty awesome, even though they're trying to figure out ways to screw it up. But anyway, they with the host counts and things like that. So all that being said, dude, thank you so much for taking this time, walking us through some really fun games, and good luck on getting out of the basement in some of those games and whatever thing you take up next on speedrunning.
I hope so. I really do hope so. Thank you very much for letting me on the podcast, and yeah. That's it, yeah. Like I said, once again, twitch.tv/Boog2TheMan. Come and have a great time over there.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. If you're enjoying the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. All those things go a long way to helping out the podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'm on Twitter @LatMackey, or you can also join the LatMackey Discord, where we have a sequence break channel. We talk about guests, we have questions. It's really interactive, really fun. Please feel free to stop on by. Thanks so much. See you in the next one.